Hello and welcome to our extended disc webinar, our 30-minute webinar. Today we're going to talk about how to use extended disc to improve customer service. My name is Christina Bowser and I'm the senior trainer here at Extended Disc, and my guest today is the president of Extended Disc North America, Markku Kapanen. Welcome.
Hi, Christina. Thank you.
Yeah, well, glad to have you here. Before we get started, though, I do want to say that as with all our webinars, we do record it. So if you want to share it with your colleagues later on or review it, we will put it on our Extended Disc YouTube channel first. As always, we welcome your questions. Unfortunately, we don't have time in this 30-minute webinar to answer them live on air. So please feel free to put it in the questions box and we'll follow up with you after the webinar is over. So Markku, today's topic is popular and always timely.
Always timely. When it comes to customer service, you know that this is something that I'm really pretty passionate about. When I look at my career, I think in a way, customer service is something that I've always been in. You know that I was in banking industry in the early 90s. I was there as a branch manager, and I had a chance to work at a great bank that really taught me the value of customer service. And of course, in our industry, we always talk about customer service here. So this is a topic that it's always close to my heart, and I'm looking forward to talking about it today with you.
Excellent. So let's start with the four-step process. You know, as we always mention that we talk about the power and simplicity of the four-step process in that it can be applied in any context, right?
Yeah, I think that's really the beauty of the model in the sense that no matter what the context is, whether it's leadership, team development, sales, or customer service, the process is always the same. So whether you're an employee or whether you are an individual who's responsible to be facilitating training sessions around the different topics, you always use the same approach. The only thing you're really doing is you put in a little bit different context. And in the context of the customer service, the steps are the same, but the last step is we really put in the context of how do I modify my behavior when interacting with my customers. But the process is that we need to understand that customers are different. So when we are in customer service situations, I need to make sure that I'm conscious of the fact that I can't use the same approach with every customer. They have different kind of expectations. They have different kind of preferences. I also need to understand that depending on my hardwired disk style, I have certain natural style of delivering service. So if you're a D style, you tend to deliver customer service quite differently. If you are, let's say, an S style, what you like is we kind of tend to deliver service how we prefer to be, what do we expect from customer service standards. And then we need to learn in that third step to really identify the styles of customers. When I'm interacting with somebody, and as you and I were talking about this topic, you brought a great point that a lot of this is happening now virtually. Mm-hmm. When I was in banking, it was all face-to-face. There was no internet banking. Now it's rare for me to actually go to the branch, and when I go to the branch, there might be a couple of customers there. But when I was a branch manager, sometimes we had the line out the door, so that has changed a lot. And then the fourth and most important step is, now that I know that my customer is certain style, I'm very aware of what my customer service style preferences are. How do I modify my behavior in order to deliver excellent customer service?
Yeah, and kind of what Markku had just mentioned as well is, we're from the same generation, Markku and I, so we do have that, we walk
into the young generation.
Exactly. We walk into the bank, we used to say hi, and then we would have our interaction, our transaction. But everything now is essentially done online, and we typically don't go to customer service unless we have a problem.
That's right.
And so, and typically for me, and I'm sure for many of you out there, that when we interact with customer service, it's by phone, it's by email, and quite infrequently do we actually go to the person to person. So technology has impacted how we deliver customer service, and also a lot of people can Google things and solve things themselves, and when they come to us, they may be a little more frustrated than initially.
That's right. Certainly, if you're a customer, all this technology, all of the options it provides, it's very convenient.
Yes.
But I think the flip side of it is that when you are still in customer service, that's your responsibility is to deliver excellent customer service. when you have to deliver it virtually, via email, via phone only, sometimes we have those chat boxes on websites. If you're the customer service representative, you still need to use these 4 steps, but it becomes a little bit more difficult to identify the style of a customer because you don't have that face-to-face contact. But there's still ways to do it. We talked about in other webinars, you can do it virtually very easily if you know what to look for.
Exactly. So before we get started talking about the styles themselves, let us kind of give you an overview about how we define excellence in customer service.
Well, as I mentioned a while ago, I was at a bank, and banking industry, if you think about banks, every bank has the same kind of checking accounts, the rates that they provide on their CDs, etc. It's pretty much the same. If you're a customer, it's really difficult to really find any significant differences. So the bank that I work for, and this came from the very, very top, the CEO is one of the most impressive people I've had a chance to work with. He knew that customer service was the way to make that bank successful. And it was a pretty big sized bank. At the time at least, we had like about 7,000 employees. But what they did is they had this concept of world-class service. It was very powerful because it's very simple. We had 7 things we had to make sure we deliver with every customer interaction, whether it was face-to-face or on the phone. And in fact, they used this what was called mystery shoppers. They may still use those, but mystery shoppers would come to our branch and they would conduct business with a customer. Well, they would call us and they would evaluate us on those 7 things. For example, phone calls, when somebody called a branch, we had to answer within 3 rings. If you went to the 4th ring, you missed that thing.
Right.
You had to use the customer's name. So these kind of things we had to use. And if you got a 7, you got a reward. If you got a 6, you were okay. If you got a 5 or lower, honestly, you were in trouble.
Wow.
If you got it once, you got a slap on the wrist. Second time, you were in deep trouble. But what it did, it created this culture of following these standards that everybody understood, and everybody understood the importance of delivering this kind of customer service. And it made the bank the most successful bank in the state. So I learned that from very early on that's what we needed to do. I think the standards are important. However, looking back now at the bank, one thing we did not think about, and it's very important, we did not realize that our customers had different preferences when it came to delivering customer service.
Yeah, for example, I'm from kind of that old era again. I don't like people calling me by my first name if I don't know them. So if that's a standard, to build rapport with me, that might not work as well with someone who's more reserved, right?
Yeah, we became kind of robotic and almost a machine-like when it came to delivering those 7 standards. We were so focused on making sure that we, check mark on each of those things that we did not consider that not all customers wanted to be treated that way. I do believe that you must have clear standards because those standards create the culture, what kind of customer service level we want to provide. If you as a consumer think about, certain companies, they provide excellent service. If you think about department stores, airlines, any organization, that there are different level of service that you can expect. You tend to pay a premium for the high level service, but you know what to expect because the culture is there. However, if you want to provide excellent customer service, then we need to understand that we need to modify our behavior with the different styles of customers that we have using the 4-step approach.
Yeah, and I always say, with these standards, your employees have expectations, and oftentimes your customers are receptive and happy. But as Markku had mentioned, we are successful until we're not. And if we only follow these standards and don't understand the customer on the other side of our interactions, at some point in time, it's not going to work.
That's right. And really the bottom line for this webinar is this. We need to have the standards, but if we want to provide excellent customer service, and if I'm in customer service role in the organization, I need to modify my behavior with different styles of customers. It is no different from if you're a manager, you have different style of employees. You need to modify your communication style. You need to modify the speed at which you deliver the service. You need to modify how much attention you pay to details. If you are not doing those things, you are not providing exceptional customer service.
So, of course, as we're talking about these 4 steps, obviously understanding what the DISC styles mean, but how do we better understand ourselves?
Well, you know this better than I do because you work so much more directly with helping our customers to implement extended DISC in their organization. But we have what I sample here is sort of a generic customer service assessment. So it's really tailored for people in customer service roles in general that looks at their hardwired DISC style and puts it in the context of what kind of customer service behaviors are more comfortable and less comfortable for them. So we create that confident self-awareness for those employees who are in customer service that, this is how I tend to do it. How do I now have a starting point from which I can begin to modify my customer service style? And as you know, we can modify, I should say, tailor these assessments to specific customer service roles. I talked about bank because that's my background. For example, tellers was, I usually have anywhere from 20 to 40 tellers in different parts of my career. And tellers, while they were in customer service, I know from first-hand experience, they did not see them as being customer service representatives. And the reason for that is that they were handling customers' money. And when you're handling customers' money, you are dealing at much more personal level. So they felt that they were at a little bit of a higher level than just customer service representatives. And that is the reason, for example, that for tellers, we have a teller assessment. So when the bank teller gets that teller assessment result, they feel it is for me. But it's really ultimately designed to help them to provide higher levels of customer experience when they come to those branches.
Yeah, and when they feel like it's for me, they're going to be more receptive to what the results say.
It takes away the excuse factor, as I call it. When it says, this is for me, okay, I'm more open to the idea. I want to use this to become more successful.
And, the other great thing is, you're not asking your employees to take a customer service assessment. It's with extended DISC, they take the DISC questionnaire, and from that, you can generate any type of report you want, be it the customer service report, teller report, leadership report, etc. So again, it's designed to make your life easier.
Let's talk about how to identify customer styles, because this is the kind of course, first we need to understand who we are, so we know how we tend to deliver service to customers, but we need to identify the styles of customers. And by the way, sometimes when we think about customer service, it's very kind of what I call routine customer service. They have a question, I need to help you, but that's much easier than when the customers are frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
When customers are frustrated, it's actually easier to identify their style, because when somebody's frustrated or even angry, hopefully we didn't go that far, when we have those strong emotions involved, people really revert to their natural style. Of course, whether you're D, I, S, and C, if you're angry, you tend to be more vocal, etc. But ultimately, you're really showing your true colors, if you will, more clearly. So when we're dealing with the D styles, we are talking about those people who are in a hurry. I want to take it quickly. I'm impatient. I'm a little frustrated. They're very task-oriented. So if you're looking for those kind of behaviors, you're probably dealing with the D style.
And then with an I style, they're the ones that they're going to come in and, they're just happy and they want to interact with you. And once you start talking about products, they get really excited and they're not so interested in details, and they might not listen to you for very long either.
If at all.
If at all, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then we, of course, S styles. S styles, the challenge when it comes to customer service is that they are hard to read.
Mm-hmm.
They're people-oriented, but they're more reserved. So it's sometimes hard to really gauge their temperature. Where we are, is the customer happy or are they frustrated? Because they are so calm. Like I'll talk about S styles. Sometimes it's difficult to figure out if they just won the lottery last night or if their dog died that morning. They always appear the same. So, but if somebody is so even keel, patient, they seem to be listening more than they're talking, most likely you deal with S style. And then, of course, with C styles, what you do there?
Well, C styles, they're usually the ones that are, they're probably not going to make buying decisions right away. They're more cautious and reserved. They want you to answer all their questions as specifically as possible in details. They may have even read all the brochures, checked out your website, read all about your products and services before they came in, but they still want to know a little bit more.
Yeah, they're what I call the knowledgeable customers. Mm-hmm. They understand the details. And you mentioned the questions. I always use the questions as a great tool to identify what style the person is. D styles ask a lot of those what questions. Hey, what's the bottom line here?
Mhm.
What you gonna do about this? I ask those who questions. Who do we need to get involved to get?
Who else bought this product?
Who else we need to get involved to take care of this challenge? S style is going to ask how. How are we going to take care of this? And of course, for the C styles, lots of why questions.
Exactly.
And we have the picture of the quick reference card there. I still have one of these. Actually, I have a couple of them in my office, on my desk, etc. I see a lot of our clients who are in customer service have this readily available to them. I'm a very visual person, so I kind of need to see it, get that reminder, even after doing this over 20 years.
And with this 4-step process, again, it's a simplicity. Learning to identify the distyles of your customers. You just need it. It just takes practice. It takes reinforcement. I always say, if your manager's out there, after your employee has a customer service interaction, go up and ask them and say, hey, what style do you think that customer was?
Yeah, that's so important, because when the manager asks that question, then the employee knows this is something that is important to my manager. What's important to the manager becomes important to me. So I begin to pay attention to that. And here's another practical tip. In a CRM, have a field that has customers this style. This, of course, when you have an ongoing relationship, when you interaction. Like, in our CRM, we have a field that identifies the customers this style. I look at it every time, because if they send me an email, I go to that and say, hey, this is a D style. I better make sure my reply is quick. Typically, their email is short to begin with, so I know that I need to kind of make sure that I basically match their email style. But that's helpful for employees, especially for the employees when they get those phone calls or they get the emails and they may never had any interaction with them. They look at there, somebody else already identified their style. Now I know how to modify the way I service the client.
Exactly. So, Marco, let's talk a little bit about our customer service employees. What strengths do our different styles bring to our customer service jobs?
Okay, yeah, let's start there. And when it comes to D styles, of course, these styles are moving fast-paced and they're very task-oriented. So when there are problems to be resolved, these styles are at their element. They take care of it quickly, and they are very decisive. They're not afraid to make decisions. And if you're a customer, you have a problem that needs to be solved urgently, hey, that's wonderful. Now, if let's say you're an I-style customer and you are dealing with a D-style customer service employee, their approach might be a little bit harsh, but ultimately they are very, very good at solving the problems quickly.
And with the I styles, we think of them as being great in customer service because they're very, excitable, they're easy to approach. They oftentimes work hard to make you feel comfortable and as excited as they are. And they enjoy interacting with people. So, from that perspective, I styles bring a lot of strengths to their customer service roles.
Yeah, and I styles, they put other people in a great mood. So if you make the customer happy just by your positive energy, that's of course always a helpful thing. Now with S styles, again, they are more also people oriented, but not as animated and expressive as the I styles. But I would think about I styles in terms of customer service. There's one word that comes to mind. That word is empathy. They're very good at listening customers. They can really make the customer feel that, hey, I'm being understood. This person is really listening to what I'm experiencing and what I'm needing, and it really make them feel like, hey, I know this person will patiently and very thoroughly take care of this challenge, or just taking care of the interaction that we have right now. It doesn't have to be a problem, but they're really good at expressing that empathy. The listening skills, active listening skills, is incredible.
Yeah, and sometimes all you do is want someone to hear what you're saying.
Exactly, and they are so good at that.
Yeah, and then with C styles, let's just say you need a new laptop computer, but you don't know anything about laptops. I mean, you know what you like and you don't, but you need someone who's an expert. The C is your expert. They're going to be the ones that are very thorough with details. They take the time to understand their product. So they are what we call the experts of the styles. Their consistent service, every time you go in, you know what to expect when you're going to a C style. And they're going to focus on the issues. They're not going to spend a lot of time chatting, and they're going to strive to help you make the best decision or the most correct decision for you.
Absolutely. And of course, when there's a problem, the way C styles approach anything is that they want to take care of it correctly the first time. So if there's a problem to be solved, C style will make every possible attempt to solve it resolve the problem the first time. Of course, when there's a problem and it's not taken care of first time, as a customer, you think, hey, it was taken care of. Next day you find out you still have the same problem. That's really frustrating. But C's really typically don't let that happen.
Exactly. So understanding, our strengths that we bring to our customer service roles is important, but also understanding the areas that our different employees with different styles may need to develop. So let's go ahead and talk about those DISC styles.
Yeah, with like every context, each style has strengths and development areas, and the same applies here in context of the customer service. And the key point here is that we just cannot autopilot, because if we don't modify our behavior, if we have to deliver customer service, we will get into trouble. We do okay with the styles that are similar to ours, D style customer service representative, D style customer, the chances are everything's going to go great. But that's, of course, typically not what's going to happen. So with these styles, really the biggest challenge is that they may move too fast. They may come across as impatient and even uncaring because they are so focused on taking care of the problem quickly. They're so task oriented. And sometimes in customer service, while taking care of the problem quickly is helpful, the customer needs to feel that connection with the other individual. And sometimes with the D style, they have difficulty doing that.
Sometimes the D style takes care of the problem, but they haven't actually heard the real problem. They take care of what they think is the problem, and they're better talkers than listeners. So sometimes it's better to slow down.
Yeah, like I had this teller who was clearly looking back now at D style, and sometimes she was very good at her job. She was very good at making sure that she took care of those 7 points. But sometimes she made customers upset because simply of her plumpness, to be frank.
Right.
She did not mean anything about it, and she actually once told me that, what is the problem? I took care of the problem. So that's kind of a D style attitude sometimes. Sometimes they forget that the interactions and customers needing to feel that they understood and heard is very important. I styles, of course, have a little bit different challenges.
I styles, they are more focused on the people and the interaction, that sometimes they're overlooking the details and facts. They're spending too much time talking, and they're forgetting to follow up, and they're your people pleasers. They want to make you happy. They want to make you like them. They want you to have that positive experience. But what happens to them is sometimes they can overdo it to the point where they maybe even oversell or overpromise something that is not fact-based or that they can't actually deliver.
So in the short term, they make the customer very happy, but then the reality kicks in and we have another challenge.
Yeah, like, oh, yeah, we can get that product in by next week, for sure.
S styles, of course, will not do that because they don't want to deliver something they can't deliver, because they are very conscious of helping others and they don't want to let them down.
Right.
But the flip side of that is that sometimes in customer service, you need to kind of evaluate the situation, perhaps make some exceptions. And sometimes S styles have a little bit difficulty doing that because they're so focused on how we are supposed to do it. These are the standards we're supposed to follow. These are the rules we need to follow. And sometimes, while they're very good at having that interaction with the person, especially listening to them and expressing empathy, sometimes they might be a little bit too slow to make decisions that need to be made.
Yeah, and with the C styles, we're not quite sure, like maybe we want people to be excited about our product. And in order to do that, we need to kind of build the rapport and to have that excitement on the surface. But the C style tends to be, more reserved, so they can come across as distant or not showing the enthusiasm we expect of them. And they are task-focused style. So they're going to be more focused on making sure you get what you want according to kind of the process of it, but they may overlook that human aspect of it. And flexibility, if it's outside of their policies and procedures, it's very challenging for that C style.
It is, and basically I think they overlook emotions sometimes. And these often are emotional situations, especially when they're problems. So C style need to be more focused on that and modify their style accordingly.
Exactly. So, of course, we've talked about the strengths and the challenges. But the good news is, as we mentioned, we want to use our strengths. We have them. So, work is hard enough. We should use our strengths. When it comes to these challenges, it doesn't mean that we cannot improve. That's the whole point of it, is to recognize our areas of development and understand how do we improve. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, I think you mentioned the strengths, and I think when in customer service, often the biggest challenges happen is when we are overusing our strengths. So how to improve, for example, for D-Style is really, hey, maybe you need to slow down a little bit and not focus so much on solving the problem, but really focusing on the actually, even if they're big picture individuals, sometimes they focus on the challenge more than the interaction. They forget to really understand that, hey, this is two individuals interacting. How do I make sure that the other person feels understood and appreciated?
And then with the I-Style, sometimes we need to go step by step, slow it down, proceed logically, and take the time to listen and to help the customer before you have heard what he or she needs. Or do not try to help the customers before you've actually heard their problem.
Yeah, they're so eager to help the other person, and sometimes they're actually working on the wrong problem.
Exactly.
And that can be frustrating as your customer. For S-Style, I think the key word there is sometimes you need to be more assertive. They are so eager to listen and they're patient listening, but sometimes you really need to think about, hey, how do I actually maybe go beyond the rules and what we're supposed to do and how we're supposed to do it. Sometimes we need to make those exceptions and really learn to modify your style a little bit more frequently, because routine is something that they're very comfortable with. Of course, when you have those customer service standards, they can be important. Sometimes they follow those a little bit too, too literally.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to sometimes make some exceptions to understand that, hey, here is something I need to do a bit differently in order to deliver that exceptional customer service.
And C's are similar to S-Styles like that in that sense as well. They, because they're both more reserved. But for the C-Style, just, suggestions would be take the time to engage and interact with your client. Maybe a couple minutes to chat and do the small talk, because in the end, you may get to that task accomplishment more effectively.
Absolutely. One thing, of course, we're now talking about how to improve, but let's talk from the different angle, from a customer's perspective and some of the frustrations especially. And we'll talk about customer service. If we think about how important customer service is, just think about your everyday life, how often you talk about what kind of customer service, excellent or bad, you receive from different organizations. We talk about it with our colleagues at the water cooler. We talk about it with our friends and family members. It really has a huge impact how successful organizations are. And one of the things in making sure that we really provide excellent customer service to different styles of our customers that we have is to understand what really frustrates them. They just want things to be done efficiently, take care of whether there's a problem or there's a transaction or whatever it is, just take care of it quickly and I'm happy. I don't need to get any questions about how my weekend was or what am I going to have for dinner tonight or whatever those questions. Take care of the problem, let me move on, I'm happy.
And eyes are not like that.
Not at all.
Eyes are like, they don't like to be kind of boxed into structure and routine. They aren't so comfortable with formality. They want to engage and they want to interact.
And with S-Styles, they just don't be impatient with me. Slow down, listen to me. Don't treat me as a human being. That's how, of course, all of them want to be treated like a human being. But for the S-Styles, it's really like, hey, I want to be understood. I want you to listen to me. I want you to feel my pain, essentially. And once you understand that, I feel like you are really providing the exceptional customer service. And with S-Styles, once they feel that way, you have a loyal customer for life. Once they believe in an organization, they love an organization, they will love that organization for life.
Yeah, it's hard to kick them
out.
out.
By the way, if they don't like you,
yeah,
they will never come back. You never know that they left, but they will tell every friend they know, do not go to that organization. I hate them.
And then with the C's, they are frustrated when there's a lot of things that, surprises and unpredictability. They want to, follow the rules. They want set expectations. They want to know what to expect next.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Any final thoughts?
Well, yeah, I mentioned at the outset of this webinar that customer service has always been a very dear topic to my heart. And when I look at the organizations, and I think everybody in the audience thinks about customer service experience they have, it really, when you think about how you spend your money, it has a huge impact how successful organizations will be. We talked about the customer service standards. I think you must have them, but I think if you want to be more competitive and be ahead of your competition, you need to make sure that every customer service employee, really every employee, modifies their behavioral style, the communication style, how to deliver service with the clear understanding that my customers are different, I must adjust.
Excellent. Way to wrap it up, Markku. Thank you. So we do have another webinar coming up. It is on how extended disc is different from other disc tools. We get, as trainers, we get asked this question every day.
That's right. So look forward to seeing you there next week. If you want to look at our other webinars, go to our website, which you see right there on the top toolbar. There's that events tab. Click there, and you find more information. And all of our friends in the United States have a happy Labor Day weekend.
Yay. Bye, everyone.